Greetings, chess family. This is Chess Optics here, presenting to you another game that I played on Lichess. It was a 2-0 time control. My opponent was a Black Bullet Chess. For those of you who may not know, or for those of you who may know, Black Bullet Chess has a Twitch chess channel, an amazing channel. He's a friend of mine. We have an ongoing chess feud, you can call it. He's up for the record. But in this game, which was a Panov Botvinnik accelerated attack, I believe that's the name of it. I'm not sure I'm even pronouncing it correctly, but so in this game, the game was decided by a tactical shot that he overlooked, a fork from the knight to his king and queen, which led to decisive material gain, and eventually I won the game. But the key feature that stands out to me in this game is the king walk, right? So there was 6 consecutive king moves made in this game that actually led to the victory. And when I look back at it, I found it rather interesting that this feature stands out so prominently. So let's just get into this game real quick, and hopefully it's something that you can enjoy. So the first move he plays is e4. I play c6. And here, so I often play these 2 moves here when I think I'm getting ready to face the Caro-Kann 2, and so I didn't even notice that he was doing this at the time. I looked later and I was like, wow, I actually played this from the white side. So I play d5, he captures, I capture, and he captures, right? So I looked in the database at this move, e6. It's definitely not suggested. It doesn't give black any advantage. I'm not saying that, but I noticed that he had never faced this move. If you look in the Lichess database, this move, I don't know if it surprised him, if he was expecting something that he normally plays, but he had never saw this move. I didn't know he didn't see it until later on, but now I do. He plays knight to f3. I capture. So the pawn structure is symmetrical. I have an isolated pawn. He has an isolated pawn. We have 3 pawns here on the king side apiece, and we have a pretty balanced pawn structure. He brings his knight out to c3, and I push. He has 2 pieces developed out, so I'm trying to gain a tempo before I bring my pieces out, because he does have a lead in development. So, and I get him to play knight to e2. I play knight to c6. He brings his queen to a4. This is a standard move in the accelerated Panov Botvinnik variation, which I have seen before. Not that I'm 100% familiar with it from either side of the board, but I just know that it's familiar. Put my bishop on d7. He captures on d4 here with his knight. I recapture, his queen captures. And I bring my knight out to f6. Bishop to c4, putting a little pressure here on the f7 pawn, right? I'm presuming that he's getting ready to bring the knight over here and try to double attack my f7 pawn. That is the presumption. Even in the game, I was guessing he did that. So I bring my queen here to c7. Now this sets up an interesting tactical shot in the game, which allows me a tempo first. The tempo comes and then the tactic. So he does bring the knight to g5 as expected, and I do castle, right? Well, excuse me. Well, so from this position with his knight on g5, he can fork, or he's threatening to fork the 2 rooks by capturing the pawn on f7. Actually I castle and allow him to do it, and bishop to c5. This renders the tempo that I was speaking of, which means that now he has to move the queen before he captures the rook. And he moves his queen to c3, and I bring my rook over to check him by going to e1. So now that's 2 tempo. E8. That's 2 tempo that I've gained. He was not able to capture any rook. He moves over. Now this is putting his king in a position where there's a potential fork here. If we can get the king here, the knight here, pardon me, my arrows are going crazy. So if we could get the king here, right, and the knight here, guess what? We have a fork on the king and queen, and he loses major material. And this is exactly what happens in the game. He does that, and I bring my rook to f8. He pushes on my bishop. Okay, 10 seconds. What do I do? Time up. Capture. He captures. This is the tactical oversight that he missed. Check. He brings the king back to a G1, and the queen is gone. He takes the pawn. Effectively, he is down considerable material, but it's not necessarily over. He can still fight on. Bishop takes, queen check, bishop check, and this is just a bunch of tempo that I'm gaining against his king. Winning on bishop, king pulls over to G1, capturing the rook. More major material is lost. And I didn't even take this rook, right? So I could have taken the rook, but my queen is extremely active in chasing the king down. Lesson here, or something that you can find useful, is that we know the outcome of the game. I mean, the objective of the game is to checkmate the king. So the time it would take me to capture the rook, well, it just means that now I have to come back out with the queen and start chasing the king again, while also losing my bishop. And it just makes the game a little bit longer, because in this type of position, in order to mate the king, you have to use the queen and the king. So being as I have a minor piece left on the board, I didn't want to go that way. So I brought the queen to D2 and delivered check, and he brings his king to G3. We go over to G5. He goes back to F2. Bishop takes C4, and this was a mistake. This move, I don't know what. The only thing that I could say is that this was an error. And well, actually, there was not really. Well, he could have gone here to preserve the bishop. He could have gone here to A4, but maybe it was a mouse slip. Maybe he meant to go to A4. So, but he stopped at B5, and I captured. He brings his queen, he brings his pawn to threaten my queen on G5. I check him. He goes to G3. And this is the start of the king walk. The king walk, so this is the first move, right? Count, the king moves 6 consecutive times. This is the feature of the game that is like amazing to me. This king walk that leads to mate. So that's 2. He steps here, there's 3. Steps here, there's 4. He goes here, and 5. So the rook is pinned to the back rank, which is why I considered making this king walk in the first place, because the rook really cannot leave the back rank, especially if the king is back there. The bishop is covering this square. Oh my goodness, sorry with these arrows. The bishop is covering the square here on F1, and if the rook is just not here and the queen steps back, then he's getting mated eventually. And I had noticed this pattern. So a capture, he steps back, and boom, this seals his fate, right? Here's the mate threat, right? And there's really nothing he can do about it. He steps over here, there's the check, and he resigned. Because if he decides that he wants to step over here, well, the queen comes here and he can't get out. It's checkmate. So that game was very interesting, and it was one that I thought I would like to share because of the feature of the king walk, which I just thought, when I looked back at the game, I was like, wow, the king moved 6 consecutive times to go and checkmate the opponent's the opposing king. So with that, I'm going to leave you with my favorite saying: may your chess be the best. And hopefully there is something from this that you can gather and learn. And with that, I'm going to say to you all my favorite parting word: peace.